I'm 30, the middle of three sisters. I work in corporate PR and live in a mid-sized U.S. city that people only know for its college football team. On paper, my family looks close. In reality, we're the kind of tight-knit that unravels the second someone misses a phone call. My oldest sister, Elise, is the type who sends Pinterest boards when she's planning a barbecue. She's married, has 2 kids, and runs her house like she's managing a project team. Candace, the youngest, is the opposite. She's had more jobs than I can count. Moves apartments like it's a hobby, and gets bored of everything in under 6 months. They've always been like fire and ice, and I was the one stuck in the middle. Growing up, it didn't matter who started the fight. If I was in the room when it happened, it was somehow my fault. If Elise rolled her eyes at Candace and Candace threw something across the room, our mom, Ruth, would turn to me and say I must have let things escalate. If I tried to calm either of them down, I was playing both sides. If I didn't say anything, I was keeping secrets. That started when we were teenagers. I used to repeat things word for word, thinking if I stayed neutral and just relayed messages exactly, it would stop misunderstandings. It did the opposite. Ruth would say I was stirring the pot because I didn't soften the message. Jack, our dad, just told me to stay out of it every single time. Let them work it out, he'd say, even when Ruth was actively pulling me into the middle. That never worked. Once you're labeled the calm one in a chaotic family, you become everyone's personal therapist. They come to you with their rants, and they expect you to fix everything without taking sides. But if anything goes wrong, you're the one who got involved. By my 20s, I had perfected the art of walking on eggshells. They said I was good under pressure. What they meant was I could keep a straight face while lying for everyone. I could pretend I didn't know Elise skipped Candace's birthday dinner on purpose. I could pretend Candace didn't say she wished Elise's husband would cheat just to spice up her life. I was the vault. Until I wasn't. The shift happened during a Sunday lunch when I was 27. Candace and Elise were in the kitchen whispering like always. I walked in just in time to hear Candace say, "Honestly, I trust Sloane the least. She always sounds calm while stirring the pot." They didn't see me. I didn't say anything. I just stood there long enough to memorize every word. After that, I stopped trying to fix anything. I didn't yell. I didn't distance myself. I just stayed in my role and sharpened it. If they wanted me to be the one stirring the pot, I'd de-stir it. Slowly. Quietly. So well they wouldn't even notice the steam. The first time I tested it was small. Candace asked me if someone had said her new boyfriend gave shady vibes. I said, I think Elise mentioned something about that. But maybe I misheard. I hadn't misheard. Elise had said it loud and clear. I just delivered it the way I knew would burn. Elise denied it. Candace didn't believe her. They went a week without speaking. I stayed out of it. After that, I started playing with seating arrangements at family brunches, booting Candace next to our cousin who once told her she always dates disasters. And putting Elise on the opposite side of the table so she could watch Candace scroll on her phone instead of making conversation. When they vented to me afterward, I nodded and said things like, "Maybe she didn't mean it that way." Or "That's not what I heard, but I could be wrong." Every sentence was vague. Every sentence was believable. I wasn't trying to ruin anyone. I just wanted space. And the more they fought each other, the less they leaned on me. Win-win. I started skipping little truths in conversations. Leaving out that Elise had made a snarky comment, or forgetting to mention Candace was invited to something. I highlighted things they said only when I knew it would hit a nerve, all while keeping the Peacekeeper Act running at full speed. Our extended family never questioned it. To them, I was still the sweet one, the middle sister who always checked in. Who never raised her voice, who remembered birthdays, and helped with group texts. The one who hugged everyone at Christmas and said, "Let's not argue right now." No one suspected that I was the one making sure they always had something to argue about. Sometimes I even helped them make up. Just so they'd keep trusting Maya nice you should talk to her here, as she didn't mean it like that there. And once the piece felt solid again, I'd tug at a thread, just enough to see if it would unravel. And it always did. They blamed me for years for being the problem, so I gave them the version of me they feared. They just didn't know she was smiling while holding the match. A few weeks after the last blow-up, Elise sent a group text, just the 3 of us. She wanted to host a sisters-only dinner at her place. No husbands, no kids, no excuses. The message was full of emojis and "miss you guys" energy. She even offered to cook. I didn't need a psychic to know what this was, a damage control dinner. Things had been off for months. Too many side comments, too many skipped calls, too many missed or accidental invites. She was trying to patch it up before the holidays. I said yes. So did Candace. An hour before dinner, I sent Candace a text, just giving you a heads up. Elise told Mom you've been drinking too much again. I thought you should know. It wasn't true. Elise hadn't said that. I made it up. Candace showed up 15 minutes late. No apology, just a loud sigh when she walked through the door. Her makeup was extra sharp, a hair done, big hoops on a total statement mood. Elise barely looked up from the salad she was tossing and just muttered something about timing. The energy dropped like a brick. Dinner started fine. Small talk, fake laughs. I asked Elise about her son's soccer league. I told Candace her new hair color made her look like she booked vacations for a living. Everyone smiled, but not really. Candace took the first shot while cutting into her chicken, making a comment about some of us being Mom's little narcs. No names, no direct eye contact, but we all knew who she meant. Elise didn't bite at first. She talked about a new coffee shop she found. But Candace didn't let it go. She asked why Elise thought she was reckless. Elise blinked and said she never said that. I stayed neutral. I looked between them and added, maybe it was taken out of context? Acting like I was trying to smooth things over. Candace's voice sharpened. She asked about the recital and why no one had told her about it. Elise said it was in the group text. Candace said she never saw it. I pretended to think hard. Oh, I thought you saw the group text. Maybe it was a different group? The table went silent for 2 full seconds. Candace pushed her plate forward, stood up, and walked out. She didn't even grab her coat. Elise leaned back in her chair and looked straight at me. No yelling, just a long exhale, and then you always say just enough to set her off. I blinked fast and pretended my voice was shaky. I was just trying to help. I even picked up the dishes like I was too stressed to argue. Later that night, Ruth, our mom, called. She was short and sharp, saying I needed to stop creating problems between my sisters, and then she hung up. I didn't reply. Over the next few days, the real fun began. Both sisters called me separately. Elise said Candace was immature and always ready to explode. Candace said Elise acted like she was the moral compass of the family. They were venting to the same person, thinking I was on their side. I let them. I asked questions, nodded through the phone, and added just enough energy to keep things alive. Then I made a new group chat. It had me, Elise, and 2 of our cousins. I left Candace out on purpose. That weekend, we went to a local food festival. I took pictures of the dessert stand, the live band, and Elise's kid holding a balloon animal. I sent the photos in the new group chat. A few hours later, Candace texted me, was that this weekend? I replied, oh, I thought you were busy. I figured someone told you. She didn't answer. I waited a few hours. Then posted one of the group photos to my Instagram story, just long enough for her to see, just long enough to twist the knife. They trusted me to fix everything. I just had to make sure there was always something to fix. Every year, our extended family does a cousin's weekend trip. It started out with 6 of us renting a cheap Airbnb and drinking boxed wine. Now it's grown into a proper event with cabins, coordinated dinners, and matching playlists. I offered to plan it this year and no one argued. The idea was a cabin up north, 3 days, 2 nights, woods, board games, and grilled food. I sent the invite to everyone, including Elise and Candace, telling the group I was trying to bring us all back together. Then I started laying the groundwork. To Candace, I said, just so you know, Elise didn't really want you on this trip. She said it might be too much tension. To Elise, I said, Candace told me she's coming. But she's not sure she can behave herself all weekend. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just enough poison in both wells. Friday afternoon, people arrived in waves. Elise's husband dropped her off and barely got out of the car. As she grabbed her bags, he leaned in and warned someone near the porch, loud enough to be heard, don't let her bait you. Candace came later, not late, just after everyone else. She walked in with sunglasses on and headphones around her neck, hugged the cousins, and barely looked at Elise. It was quiet, but tight. I had already picked the rooms. Elise got placed with our cousin Abigail, who thought Candace once stole a hoodie from her. Candace got put with Natalie, the cousin who posted about how amazing Elise was on every family photo. No one questioned it. I acted like it was based on early risers versus those who stayed up late. Tension kicked in early. At lunch, someone brought up Elise's toddler refusing naps lately. Candace muttered something about how people really change once they have kids. Elise looked over like she was counting backward to stay calm. I jumped in quickly, saying it was probably just sleep deprivation and that I was sure they both meant well. Dinner was an outdoor barbecue. Everyone sat around the fire pit, eating off paper plates. Candace was sipping wine. I mentioned out of nowhere how Elise once said Candace had a thing for dating losers. The table went dead silent for half a second. Candace didn't even blink. She just replied, "Didn't realize we were sharing those takes publicly now." A couple of cousins looked between them. Abigail shifted in her seat. Natalie raised her eyebrows and looked away. Elise shot a look at me like she couldn't believe I'd brought it up. I just shrugged and asked if anyone wanted more chips. It spiraled from there. Candace started asking Elise what else she'd been saying. Elise tried to deny it, then halfway admitted she'd maybe made a comment months ago. Voices got louder. Cousins started stepping in to de-escalate. Natalie tried to lighten the mood. Abigail said they always make things awkward. Someone suggested switching topics. I stood up and walked away, saying I didn't want to be in the middle. Candace left the table a few minutes later to smoke out front. She texted me, "Is Elise seriously still talking trash about me?" I replied, "She's probably just overwhelmed lately." I wouldn't take it personally. Inside, everyone else was cleaning up. Elise was venting to Abigail about how exhausting Candace was. Jules, one of our quieter cousins, watched me the whole time. She didn't say much. She just observed. The next morning, I made pancakes and passed out coffee like nothing had happened. Candace was short with her words, Elise avoided direct eye contact, and Abigail fake smiled through everything. Jules pulled me aside near the deck. She asked if I noticed how these fights always somehow happened when I was around. I blinked and asked what that meant. She said it felt like I was playing dumb about a lot of things lately. I gave her the usual answer, I honestly hate that I'm always the one blamed for other people's drama. She didn't push it, she just walked back inside with a glass of orange juice. That weekend, I learned to master not just starting the fire, but sitting beside it, pretending to shiver. Ruth's birthday was coming up. Nothing milestone, just one of those we should all be together kind of birthdays. I told everyone I'd organize something small, saying I wanted to keep it simple and make sure it didn't turn into chaos. Everyone agreed. First move. I told Elise that Candace had really wanted to host this year because she felt left out and wanted to show she could handle it. Then I told Candace that Elise was slammed with the kids and work and wouldn't be able to help with anything, so it would just be easier if I planned around her schedule. I picked a weekend that Candace had casually mentioned might be packed with work deadlines. I told Ruth it was Candace's suggestion, then stepped back. Elise, being Elise, took over fast. She booked a private dining room at a trendy little Italian place that required preset menus. She made a group chat for planning but left Candace out, claiming it was an accident. I didn't say anything. I just let the group chat fill up with menu picks and decorations. 3 days before the dinner, I texted Candace, they finalized everything. I thought someone looped you in. She went off full meltdown in the family group text. She called Elise controlling and said Ruth never notices when she gets sidelined. Ruth replied once, "I'm tired of all this drama," then muted the chat. I sent private messages to both sisters and Ruth afterward, saying, I just wanted Mom to have a peaceful night. And that I didn't know the group chat was missing anyone, that I was just trying to keep things simple. Everyone told me they appreciated me. The night of the dinner, Candace showed up 20 minutes late, wearing jeans and a loose sweater. Everyone else was dressed like they'd just come from a work event. Elise took one look and made a quick comment about how some of us still try. Candace didn't respond. Dinner dragged. Ruth barely looked at Candace, smiled at Elise's stories, and complimented her necklace. I sat between them and asked if anyone wanted more bread. After the party, I told Candace Ruth probably didn't mean to ignore you. Maybe she was just tired or distracted. Candace said it didn't matter, but she kept texting me for hours. The next day, I sent Candace 2 screenshots. They were real, just taken out of context. One had Elise saying she was exhausted from dealing with childish moods. The other was Ruth replying, "I know, I'm so proud of how you handle it." Candace called Ruth and brought it up. Ruth immediately got defensive, said Candace was always reading into things, and said Elise had been trying to help, not criticize. That night, Candace left the family group chat. I sent a message to the others, she's probably just going through something. Let's give her space. The cousins started texting me directly. Ruth said she didn't want to deal with another argument. Elise said she was over it. Word got around that I was the only one still talking to everyone. Candace started calling me more than ever, venting, spiraling, and asking me what I thought about everything. I nodded along on the phone and gave vague answers like, maybe they just don't understand your side. They gave me the role of family glue, and I decided glue could burn too, under the right flame. One of our cousins got engaged in the Springa big backyard proposal. With string lights, champagne, and a photographer hiding in the bushes. It was the kind of engagement that turns into a family production overnight. Elise was picked as a bridesmaid. Candace wasn't. The cousin framed it like she was keeping it small. But there were 5 bridesmaids, total 3 of them younger than Candace, and one of them barely family. I told Candace that Elise had suggested she might not be reliable enough for the bridal party, and that the cousin probably just didn't want drama. Candace didn't argue, she just said she'd still come to the wedding but would just show face. A week later, the bridal party went dress shopping at this upscale boutique that Elise had picked. They posted pictures in their group chat, mirrors, champagne flutes, matching robes. Candace wasn't included in the chat. I showed her one of the photos and casually said, "Looks like they all went without you." She didn't reply. When Elise planned the bachelorette weekend 3 days at a spa resort with wine tastings and matching pajamas, I told her Candace had said she wasn't into that stuff anyway. Then I told Candace they didn't want to make it awkward. A few days later, one of the cousins who did go accidentally mentioned a group photo Candace had never seen. That's when she realized she wasn't invited at all. She asked me if I knew about it in advance. I said, "I thought you said you weren't interested," then changed the subject. Elise called me later that week to vent, saying Candace was too unpredictable and would have ruined the weekend, adding that she was glad the bride kept things tight. I nodded through the phone, then sent Candace a message saying everyone was pretending to care but no one actually listened to her. At the pre-wedding family dinner, Candace made little comments in front of everyone. She called the bridesmaid dresses desperate for attention and said some people only got picked because they were safe. Ruth shot her a warning look. Elise stayed quiet. I smoothed it over like always, telling the group Candace was just feeling left out, telling Elise not to take it personally, and telling Ruth to let it go. Candace showed up to the wedding with a new boyfriend, a tall guy with a rough beard who didn't talk much and looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Elise whispered to me during the cocktail hour that he seemed like he was using her for something. Later, I told Candace that Elise said her date looked like someone who just got out of prison. Candace didn't react. But during the reception, while everyone was halfway through their wine and the DJ was switching from slow songs to pop hits, she walked straight up to Elise in front of a circle of cousins and said, loud enough for the next table to hear, "You're fake. You always have been." Everyone turned. Elise's face froze. Ruth rushed over and pulled Candace aside. They argued near the bar for a few minutes, then Candace left without saying goodbye. The next morning, Ruth called me to complain, saying Candace ruined the wedding and that Elise handled it maturely. I said I just wanted everyone to be okay. Candace called me that night, saying she was tired of always being on the outside. I told her she deserved better, and that people were always ready to judge her no matter what. At that wedding, they all danced like everything was fine, while I threaded the needle of every cut I'd helped stitch. After the wedding, Candace stopped showing up to the weekly family dinners. Ruth asked once if anyone had heard from her. I told her Candace was just overwhelmed and needed space. Elise shrugged and said it was probably for the best. With Candace gone, Elise started acting like the family matriarch. She took charge of RSVPs, picked restaurants, and sent reminders in the group chat. Ruth backed her up on everything, even when the cousins rolled their eyes. I kept watching, seeing who naturally aligned with Elise, who stayed quiet, and who tried to stay in the middle. Then I started planting little comments, just light ones, asking one cousin if they noticed how Elise always cut people off mid-story, or telling another that Ruth only compliments Elise's kids and never remembers anyone else's birthdays. Then came a cousin's surprise birthday. I made the group text for the planning and forgot to add Candace. The party was at a rooftop bar, and pictures got posted. Candace found out through Instagram and messaged Ruth. Ruth replied, "It's not that serious." Elise chimed in later with a comment about how Candace was always looking for drama. I pretended to smooth it over, saying it must have been a mistake and that no one was trying to leave her out. I messaged each of them separately, like I always did. To Candace, "I know it hurt, but I don't think it was intentional. Maybe just bad communication?" To Elise, "She's just sensitive right now. Try not to react." They both thanked me for being the only one who gets it. The next week, I called Candace and told her I overheard Elise once say she regretted ever letting Candace babysit her kids. It wasn't a lie, Elise had said it during a brunch years ago, when one of the kids came home with glitter in their hair, but I told it like it was recent, like it still bothered her. Candace got quiet. Jules, the cousin who called me out during the cabin trip, started pulling away from me. She stopped texting back quickly and skipped a dinner. She said she was busy when I asked if she wanted to carpool to a family outing. So I started seeding doubt. I told Elise that Jules had said she was a control freak. I told Candace that Jules always played both sides and didn't really trust her. Neither of them questioned it. A few days later, Candace called Ruth and told her she was tired of being the family scapegoat, saying she was done playing nice. Ruth hung up on her halfway through. Elise found out and told Ruth she thought Candace needed serious help. Mental health comments started getting thrown around. Ruth agreed. I stayed quiet and offered to check in with Candace on their behalf. At this point, everyone was spiraling in their own direction. Elise barely mentioned Candace, Candace only talked to me, and Ruth told the cousins she was tired of pretending things were fine. For New Year's, Elise planned a family brunch, big reservation, fixed menu, family photos planned after. No invite went to Candace, not even an accidental one. I offered to break the news gently. I messaged Candace and said, I didn't want you to be blindsided. They planned something but didn't include you. I'm sorry. She replied, thanks for telling me. I'm done trying. The more they relied on me to keep things together, the easier it became to rip every seam from the inside out. Ruth decided to host a Just Us Girls dinner. She said it was Timmy, no cousins, no husbands, no distractions, just her and her daughters at the table. I told her I'd be there, then nudged both Elise and Candace to show up. I sent Candace a soft message saying she might regret not coming and not saying things face to face. I told Elise the time and place and reminded her Candace had agreed to show. Leading up to it, Elise was smug, mentioning how Candace better not show up drunk again. Candace messaged me twice the day of, asking if it was really worth going. I told her it might be her last chance to speak freely. At the dinner, I set the table before anyone arrived, putting Candace's seat right between Ruth and Elise just the way it had to be. Candace arrived last, gave a quick wave, dropped her purse, and sat down. Everyone started with polite small talk. Then Candace made a dry joke about being invited for once. Elise didn't hesitate, asking if Candace could maybe stay off her phone for dinner. I let it hang for a second, then said, this reminds me of that night you two went at it over the ski trip. Both of them looked up. I added just enough, saying Candace had made some comment about Elise's parenting that night, something that never actually happened. Elise slammed her fork down. Ruth sighed and asked if this was really happening again. Candace looked around the table, confused at how it had escalated so fast. I reached across and gently placed my hand on Candace's. Let's not ruin another dinner, please. Candace pulled her hand back. She stared at me for a long moment and said, I don't even know what you get out of this anymore. Ruth snapped. She said she was tired of all of it. That she had watched me stir quietly for years, and that I always smiled while everyone else screamed. The floodgates opened. Candace accused Elise of playing the victim. Elise called Candace emotionally unstable. Ruth blamed both for ruining every holiday and dragging her into every argument. I didn't raise my voice once. I just said, maybe this is what happens when no one listens until someone's screaming. Candace stood up and left without finishing her wine. Elise followed a few minutes later, muttering something about needing fresh air. Ruth stayed seated, staring into her glass. I stayed behind and washed the dishes in silence. After Candace left, Ruth didn't say a word. No one did. No more texts. No more check-ins. No more dinners. And I didn't try to fix it. Because the truth is, I never divided the family. I just let them divide themselves while I watched, smiling from the cracks they refused to patch.